Hey everyone, ready for a deep dive into something pretty weird?
Oh, yeah, always.
We're looking at those cryptic messages spotted on Google Earth back in 2023.
Right. Right near Cesar Chavez Avenue in Los Angeles.
Yeah, a super busy spot, which makes it even creepier. Right?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
I mean, think about it, words like help and TRAFFICO, LAPD, federal, even terrorismo and dose.
And names, too.
Yeah, like Alyssa.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely gives you the chills, right? Like human trafficking vibes.
It's definitely jarring, to see that, especially in such a public place, like high traffic area. Makes you wonder how something like that could go unnoticed for so long.
Right, and it didn't stay unnoticed for long either. Internet sleuths were all over it. We even had folks from the FaZe clan, remember them?
Yeah.
That gaming and entertainment group. Some of them went down there to investigate.
Wow.
Yeah, and get this, one of them, FaZe Lacey, was actually told to get out while he was filming near the location. So we've got ourselves a real mystery here. What do you think about all of this?
Well, the first thing that jumps out at me is the timeline of the messages. And luckily, Google Earth has that historical imagery, so we can actually see when they appeared and disappeared. And the interesting thing is they started popping up right around the same time that a homeless encampment formed near that location.
Okay, so a potential connection to this homeless encampment. What were some of the theories floating around online about that?
Well, there were two main theories. One that really caught everyone's attention was human trafficking, especially with the word traffico.
Right.
Plus, some people saw what looked like holes in some of the images. They thought maybe those were like secret entrances or something.
Yeah, that's some pretty dark stuff. What about the other theory?
The second theory was that the messages were written by someone struggling with mental illness, potentially someone living in that encampment. There were even some people online saying they had seen a homeless man writing those messages.
So on one hand, you have this organized crime scenario, and on the other, you have a more isolated incident of someone in crisis. Did anyone actually find any evidence to support either of these theories?
Not really. There was a ton of speculation online, but nothing concrete to confirm either theory.
Mm-hmm.
But internet sleuths, being internet sleuths, they dug up a pretty curious detail. They found what looked like an abandoned Union Pacific police station just a short distance away. And they used this mapping application, Spartan Forge, to find even more messages and names around the area.
Wait, a deserted police station? That sounds like something straight out of a movie. How did they even find that? And what do we know about this station?
Spartan Forge is like Google Earth, but on steroids. It pulls together all kinds of publicly available data, like property records, satellite imagery, even historical aerial photos. As for the police station, it's interesting. Union Pacific has its own police force.
Really?
Yeah. With special agents who investigate crimes related to the railroads. They have jurisdiction over a huge network. But information on this specific station in LA is pretty scarce.
So a potentially abandoned police station, cryptic messages, and a homeless encampment all really close together. That's a pretty big coincidence, don't you think?
It definitely raises some eyebrows. We should be careful about jumping to conclusions, but you do have to wonder what might have been happening in that station. And speaking of speculation, there was another theory going around online. We should probably take this one with a grain of salt, though.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. The one about the company Cemex, right?
Yep, that's the one.
Cemex, a Mexican multinational company. This theory was all over certain online platforms. It tried to link the messages to Cemex, suggesting they were involved in something shady, specifically child trafficking.
Okay, but how did Cemex even get pulled into this?
Yeah.
Just because they're located nearby doesn't automatically make them guilty of anything?
You're absolutely right. But the main fuel for this speculation was their proximity to where the messages appeared on Google Earth.
Ah, I see. Cemex has a plant that's just a short drive away from where those messages popped up. And in the world of online speculation, that was enough for some people to start connecting dots, even if those dots were purely imaginary.
So just because a company is in the same area, people assume they're involved in something shady. That's kind of crazy, right?
It is, yeah. And it shows how fast misinformation can spread online, especially when it plays on people's fears.
Right. Right.
We've seen it happen over and over again. A tiny bit of truth, or even just being nearby, gets twisted and exaggerated until it becomes this huge conspiracy theory. In this case, there's absolutely no evidence to connect Cemex to those messages on Google Earth or to any illegal activity. It's so important to be a critical thinker and not just believe everything you see online.
Totally. I mean, always double check your sources and don't get caught up in the hype. But going back to the messages themselves, the actual words and phrases, what stood out to you about them?
Well, that combination of words, help, TRAFFICO, LAPD, federal,
Yeah.
it immediately creates this sense of danger, like something bad is happening.
Yeah.
It's easy to see why people thought it was something criminal, especially with that word terrorismo thrown in there.
Yeah.
That word, especially after 9/11, it carries a lot of weight and brings up a very specific kind of fear.
It's almost like whoever wrote those messages wanted to cause panic or alarm. And you mentioned traffico, the Spanish word. Do you think that added to the whole organized crime or gang theories?
It's possible. Language is powerful, and it can definitely shape how we see things. Using traffico might have subconsciously reinforced those theories for some people. Even though there's no actual connection between the Spanish language and criminal activity, it's a reminder that even with something like satellite imagery, which seems objective, our interpretations can be influenced by biases and cultural associations that we don't even realize.
That's a really good point. So we have these disturbing messages, a possible connection to a deserted police station, and a ton of online speculation. But in the end, we still don't know who's behind it all. Did anyone ever figure out who owned the land where the messages appeared?
No, unfortunately not. Property records didn't lead anywhere, which just adds to the mystery. It's like this piece of land just popped up out of nowhere with no clear owner or history.
And what about law enforcement? Surely they must have looked into this, right? With all the attention it got online, I can't imagine they just ignored it.
It's very likely they investigated, especially with the seriousness of the accusations. But like a lot of law enforcement investigations, information is kept confidential. So we don't have any official statements or reports, just a bunch of unanswered questions.
That's kind of frustrating, isn't it? You have this captivating mystery unfolding right there on Google Earth, and then it just goes cold. No resolution, no closure. It's like a story without an ending.
It is. And that's maybe what makes this whole case so fascinating. That lack of resolution leaves you with this uneasy feeling like there's more to this story, something we might never fully understand.
It's like a puzzle with missing pieces. We can see the general outline, but we might never have all the pieces to complete the picture.
That's a great analogy. And sometimes those missing pieces are the ones that spark our imagination the most. It's human nature to try to fill in the gaps, to create stories that give us a sense of closure.
And that's where the internet comes in, right? People from all over can connect and share their theories, their ideas, their attempts to solve the puzzle.
Exactly. It becomes a group effort to make sense of the unknown, to unravel the mystery. It shows the power of curiosity and that human need to understand things. But it's also a cautionary tale, about the dangers of misinformation and how important critical thinking is in the digital age.
For sure. We need to be careful about mistaking speculation for fact, especially when we're talking about sensitive topics like human trafficking. But there's something undeniably intriguing about this case. It reminds us that even in our super-connected world with information everywhere, there are still mysteries hidden just below the surface waiting to be discovered. And who knows, maybe someday, someone will find those missing pieces and finally reveal the truth behind those cryptic messages on Google Earth. But until then, the speculation goes on.
And the story lives on.
It really makes you think how just a few words on Google Earth can spark so much curiosity and get the whole internet buzzing with theories. This case really shows how we're always trying to make sense of things, even if it means we have to fill in the blanks ourselves.
Oh, absolutely. We crave those narratives, those explanations that help us feel like the world makes sense. And when we don't have all the facts, well, our imaginations take over.
It's like everyone became a detective with this one, right? Trying to solve it. It shows how the internet can bring people together to share information and try to crack a mystery. But like you said earlier, it also shows how fast misinformation can spread.
Yeah, it's a tough balance. We have this amazing tool for sharing knowledge and working together, but we also have to be really careful about the information we're taking in and passing along.
Yeah.
It's more important now than ever to think critically, to question our sources, and to watch out for anything that sounds too sensational or too good to be true.
Couldn't agree more. This deep dive has definitely given us a lot to think about. What are your thoughts now that you've explored all of this? What's the most likely explanation for those Google Earth messages? Did we miss anything along the way?
It's hard to say for sure. That's the thing about these mysteries. They often leave us with more questions than answers. But I think that's part of what makes them so interesting. They make us think critically, consider different perspectives, and accept that sometimes we just don't know the truth.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that we don't always have all the answers. And that's okay. Sometimes the exploration is just as important as finding the answer. So what do you all think out there? What really stood out to you in this whole story? What would you do if you could investigate this further? And what other mysteries are out there hiding in plain sight, just waiting to be discovered? Keep those questions in mind, and hey, you might just stumble onto the next big internet mystery yourself. Until then, happy sleuthing, everyone!